G'day everyone, and welcome to the third installment of the Ask the Expert webinar series. Today we are joined by Adobe, DuluxGroup and Balance Internet, and together we will better understand the change in comfort levels with shopping online and why online marketplaces might just be taking over in 2021. For all you newbies out there, hello, I'm Ali Fee, I'm the editor of Power Retail, and as always it is a pleasure to have everybody here today. Today we are joined by Brett Sinclair, the Senior Solutions Consultant at Adobe, James Horne, the Director of Strategy at Balance Internet, and Jemima Miller, the E-commerce and CRM Manager of DuluxGroup. Thank you guys for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
Great to be here. Thanks, guys.
So
yeah, good to be here.
It's such a great pleasure to have everyone. But before I actually jump into the webinar, I'm going to give a little intro to everybody so everyone knows who our speakers are. So James Horne is the digital commerce innovator and a thought leader with a deep passion for driving business success from digital commerce ecosystems. He has more than 20 years of experience as a solutions architect, and he made his first online sale, which was a music CD, via an e-commerce system built on an open source software in 1996. His digital retail experiences have given him a comprehensive understanding of every challenge facing businesses and the opportunities that exist within them. And he also has extensive experience in digital transformation in the education, government, B2B and B2C sectors. He's kind of become the go-to guy for online commerce and marketing. Lovely to have you here, James.
Thanks, Ali. I'm also a basketball coach of teenage boys, which is actually harder than all that other stuff combined, I reckon.
There's nothing you can't do, honestly.
Yeah.
And next we have Jemima Miller, who is a strategist, change expert, digital performance marketing, and e-commerce professional with over 11 years of experience scaling business growth in the online arena. Over the course of her career, she has worked with some of the most amazing global brands, including Jack Daniels, Woodford Reserve, Latan, Skin Republic, and Australia's Cosmetics. So Jemima, lovely to have you here too.
Thanks for having me.
And finally, we have Brett Sinclair, who has been in the e-commerce industry for over 10 years, working initially as an operations executive, and then he moved to a role as an advisor, specialist consultant, and e-commerce specialist for Adobe. Here he helps brands leverage the Magento Commerce platform to digitally enable and transform a customer's online buying and self-service experience. Hi, Brett. Nice to have you here.
Thanks, Ali. Good to be here.
So as we come out of the other side of the pandemic, the online landscape certainly looks different than it did 12 months before. With an unwavering volume of new and seasoned online shoppers, the changes in consumer behavior are undeniable. So in today's Ask the Expert webinar, we'll be examining what is actually driving consumers to shop online in a post-pandemic landscape and how expectations are changing and what retailers can do to capitalize to the shift online. So without further ado, let's jump right in. So Jemima, let's start with you.
Thanks, Ali. Look, I'll tackle this one by beginning with referencing a recent report Australia Post released that in Australia, on average, an additional 1 million households shopped online each month in 2020, which is a substantial increase when compared to 2019. And household online participation was certainly evident, with almost 9 million households making an online purchase. So in reference to the DIY space in particular here, traditional online retail categories expanded rapidly with a range of new and emerging categories which I believe is a vast contributor to the increasing number of online shoppers. So it is evident there is appetite for consumers to shop online, but it is now up to brands to maintain that relationship by delivering on the experience. The more seamless and simple a transaction and the fewer steps needed to complete it, the more likely it is to occur. So brands that are successful in creating exceptional online customer experiences will be in a better position to influence and transform a traditional offline consumer into a permanent online one, which leads into we are living in the adaptability economy. So by adapting to the changing needs of the online consumer, brands will be able to scale from a proof of concept store through to a permanent solution. If businesses can continue to identify the new problems consumers are having during these periods of change and uncertainty, they will evolve and adapt in parallel with the shift in consumer mindset. By paying attention through data collected to these habit and attitude changes, brands will be able to identify the new challenges customers are struggling with And this is where online plays a crucial role through social listening, by listening to what customers are saying and also servicing them through tools like live chat that can turn a negative experience into a positive transaction quickly. Additionally, brands that will continue to succeed in the online space will be the ones that deliver on contextual commerce experiences. And what I mean by that is being present across the expansion of digital commerce channels and designing the role each channel will play in the overall customer experience. So is it to service experiences first and transact second? Or is it to transact first and educate second? Is it about brand building or awareness or inspired to take some sort of action? And this is across social commerce, voice commerce, digital kiosks, marketplaces, and owned direct-to-consumer stores. Brands will need to prove out their value exchange online to the consumer, differentiated from what they would receive from an in-store experience. And so whether that be through different pack formats, pricing, value-add exclusive information, delivery, variety of payment options, or some sort of subscription model that delivers on convenience. And brands that have been collecting first-party data over the past 18 months, including online purchase behaviour, will be in a more equipped position to continue the online relationship with their consumers, as they will know how to service them. So looking at this chart, do I believe this trend will continue? Slightly yes, but will then retract marginally and probably plateau for a while.
Very interesting. And Brett and James, do you have anything to add to this slide? And do you actually expect this trend to continue as well? And if so, or if not, why?
I'm happy to have a go first, Brett. Yeah, I believe that it will flatten out. I think it might continue to rise marginally, but it'll flatten out. I think massive step change in 2020 was kind of, I talk a lot about the fact that in 6 months, I think online retail grew about 5 years, just because it had to. So it wasn't about an option to do it. It was actually that they had to do it. A lot of the retailers that we work with, and we work with over 40 different organizations who sell online, and we have built their platforms for them. They were forced to do amazing things, go to click and collect, go to contactless pickup, improve their websites, improve their site's performance. Like, they just had no choice because it was the only channel that was there, and their customers had to use that to buy. So I think there was a massive step change, which is really great. I think it's accelerated things that are, I said 4 or 5 years, but I think what will happen as things settle down is that curve will flatten out a bit. Brett, what are your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, I would probably echo that sentiment. I think it will flatten out a bit, but like James mentioned, we've seen across our customer base and a lot of conversations we're having with new businesses that they've had to accelerate their plans in a lot of areas as their online's grown. It's exposed, I guess, a few weaknesses in different areas of their business where they need to get more efficient, I suppose. So I think everyone's starting to see the benefit of that. So I'd still expect that businesses are going to keep investing in the online channel and making their ecosystem of channels much more connected. So I expect that it will drop off, but I think we'll start to see a more steady rise from there on online revenue being shifted from bricks and mortar.
Fascinating stuff. So, James, let's take this one for the shift to online. Could you please explain what's going on in this slide and what it means for retailers?
Yeah, sure. This one's really interesting. Conversion rate is really important for retailers, and if you look at the shift from 19 to 20 of 25%, if you could increase anything within a business by 25% in a year, you'd be pretty happy. So it's a pretty massive shift in conversion rate, and I just want to sort of talk about, I suppose, 5 reasons why. The first one is, I think, that consumers' intent has changed. And that's that forced thing. So there's that forced change that occurred during COVID where people had to buy online, they were scared to go outside. And if they wanted to purchase goods and services, then online was the only way they could do it. So they had this intent. Like, my father's a really good example. He'd never really bought anything online before, and now he buys things online all the time because he had to. So, and the interesting sort of subset of that intent change is that there's a sector that's contributed to this, and that's probably the 40 to 80-year-old sector. I'm just going to put the sort of the the top half of the age bracket within Australia, a lot of them have come online either for the first time or they've moved from ROPO to Robo. So they've gone from research online, purchase offline to research online, buy online. And that's the shift that they've made. So they might have been researching online, but then they would go in store because that's where they were comfortable. So there's been a big shift there. And that's also added, to the conversion rate, because that would have been dropping it. So the researchers would have been holding that conversion rate down. The second thing that's occurred rapidly during COVID and during 2020 was just the whole convenience and customer service piece. Our customers, our retailers that we work with, and the ones that have approached us to help them out during this time, there's been plenty of them, really had to get their act together. From a fulfillment perspective, from a customer service perspective, from a packaging perspective, they had to get everything sorted, and they had to be get to a benchmark that was where everyone else was. And if we talk marketplaces, which we'll talk about later, they had to get their levels of service and their levels of delivery and their levels of customer service and levels of fulfillment up to the levels of someone like Catch, for instance. The next thing is the delivery model has changed, and this actually was also adding specifically to conversion rate, I think, and that is this whole click and collect, or order online and pick up model. And that was there prior to 2020, but it matured drastically and gave people, and more organizations had to I think we had 5 organizations that had to accelerate their click and collect plans massively during 2020, because they just had to, because that's the way that people were going to order. And that has made people who might not have been comfortable buying online realize, well, I can buy it online, but then I can still go to my local store or location and pick it up. And last one is what we do, which is basically front-end design and conversion rate optimization and all that work. So the on-site work. So websites have improved. We're at Balance, we are building better websites. We are increasing conversion of those websites because our clients are putting pressure on us to do that, and we're all rapid. So they're starting to invest a lot more money and going, what, we want the maximum possible experience, the best possible user experience, and that is obviously contributing to people finding it easier to buy. That's my 2 cents.
James, I just want to go back to your first point and maybe ask Jemima. I'm sure there's a lot of different customer segments within the DuluxGroup. Have you started to see a change in that age bracket that James described from 40 to 80? Is there any kind of notable changes that you guys have seen?
In response to looking at offline versus online, the conversion rate in store is, I think, sometimes something around 4 times that of what usually occurs online, and that's due to the nature of that one-to-one interaction with the sales assistant and being able to answer questions in real time. And the adoption that we've done with live chats and online customer service has definitely been able to influence that conversion rate from that age bracket.
Cool.
Absolutely fantastic. So now we're going to move on to Brett. So again, continuing on with this trend of the shift to online, it's obvious that the levels of comfort with online shopping have changed in 2020. Brett, could you please explain in detail the sort of areas that have experienced the most change?
Yeah, sure. So I think when I saw this statistic, it was interesting, and that second bar graph where over 20% now people are saying they're much more comfortable with shopping online, which is great for the online channel. But with that, I think we're also starting to see that consumers are now willing to switch brands at unprecedented rates based on being able to get a better online experience or more superior kind of click and collect convenience. So I guess it kind of begs the question of this year, like what do you really need to be focusing on, you know, to ensure that you're starting to capitalize on that shift to online. And for our customers and the conversations that we're having with, you know, various businesses in, you know, many different verticals, the common themes that we're seeing now are really a lot of focus on loyalty. So, you know, how can you, you know, retain customers, build spend with existing customers. A lot of, a lot of businesses out there have been looking at loyalty programs in the past, but hadn't decided to really enable them. But we've seen that as a really big focus now moving forward about how they can leverage that and really lean into a loyalty program. We've spoken a lot about click and collect already, but that's been a huge focus. So, you know, James mentioned that a lot of companies need to clean up their act in that space. So that's also been a huge focus for everyone, getting rid of fixing a lot of legacy systems that maybe were causing problems and couldn't really scale to the demands of the new shift to online that we're seeing. And then thirdly, probably the big focus then would be personalization as well. So, you know, in order to really capitalize on this shift and, you know, make sure that, you know, your customers aren't moving, you know, you need to be always delivering a more personalized experience now. Customers are demanding it. You know, we're seeing across the Adobe portfolio, businesses that are investing in that area, you know, driving nearly 2 times the amount of revenue that customers who aren't. So those are kind of the really big focus areas for a lot of the customers in our business.
Absolutely. And just throwing it out to Jemima and James as well, do you think there are any other ways that retailers can keep consumers engaged with online shopping in the year that's coming out of the pandemic?
You go first, Jemima.
I would say it's about offering additional services. So, you know, it's not just about buying a product, but say you're buying a chair, you want that to be installed. So having that on offer as part of that experience, I think those sort of value-added offerings will start to trend.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm going to pick up on a couple of points that Brett made around loyalty and personalisation, but also add to Jemima's point on services. So, firstly, on loyalty, it's a huge opportunity. I think 2020 has allowed a lot of retailers to build up their customer base and build up their purchases. So a lot of people have come for the first time to purchase because they had to. I think it's a really important focus of growth to actually look at that next purchase, that second purchase, that third purchase, that bundled purchase, or selling your customers products that they might also like based on what they've already purchased, which ties into the personalization. So if you can combine the power, if you can really focus on retention and repeat customers with a subset around that, around personalization, I think there's a really massive opportunity to keep your growth trajectory going upwards based on sort of what happened last year. And around services, I spot on, Jemima. I really think that's a really amazing thing. And we're doing a lot of work within the Magento platform in presenting services to customers like products, so people can buy just services or services and products, or buy, you know, one or t'other, or bundles of them. So it could be you know, pet products with veterinary services, or it could be, as you say, chairs with installation, or it could be paint with the painter. You know, I think that idea of bundling products and services together and supporting around that, it really helps the customer to, again, going back to the other things, to increase that loyalty and that personalization. So I think there's some big opportunities there.
Absolutely. So this one is going to be a bit of an open discussion because it is a fascinating topic about the reason to increase online spend. So I'm going to throw it over to all 3 of you, whoever wishes to start first, and discuss the convenience and the fear of catching COVID and how these are impacting the intent to shop online. So take it away. Jemima, let's start with you.
I was like, let's not all talk at once. Look, if you can deliver on convenience online, you know, you've won your customer over. So it's not surprising, it's unsurprising, I should say, that Convenience, is at the highest at 57% there. In January, though, I think that's interesting, which I believe we were sort of coming out of it then. And then you can see in April it's starting to dip off again, but that's obviously because we haven't got a full month of data yet. But convenience, if we talk about convenience, I mean, it's that, again, what we were saying before around, what additional services are you offering? It's ensuring you've got the right product availability online. It's your speed of delivery. It's the payment options offered, and it's that frictionless experience. So if you offer frictionless experience, consumers are going to continue to buy from you, which, yeah, as I said, adds to that overall experience.
Absolutely. James and Brett, do you guys have anything to add to this?
I'll have a go. Yeah, look, I think convenience there's so much, you sort of have to unpack convenience and what's involved in it. And it could be packaging, it could be fulfillment, it could be the customer service, it could be the speed of delivery. Like, there's just so many pieces to it. And if you break that down as a business and really understand it and can keep delivering it, it builds that trust, but it also builds that intent. So I think during COVID, during 2020, one of the things that really happened was, and I said this in the first session, but the first answer, but a lot of people got themselves really organised. There was a lot of things that were on the backlog around convenience that weren't done properly, and a lot of businesses really rapidly were forced to improve the way they do things. And now it's expected. And so if you're a business out there that's not delivering on the fulfillment promise, on the speed of delivery promise, on the payment options, on the customer service, having the online chat, like all the things that others are doing, then you might lose customers because people will just go, you know what, that's just not convenient for me. I'll go somewhere else. So 2020, massive acceleration, and then I think it'll stay there, but you need to make sure that you as a business are constantly challenging whether you are delivering convenience to your customers.
Yeah, I think it's mission critical. I mean, there was a study, an Adobe report. I think it was around over 70% of the surveyed people said they would switch suppliers to one with similar prices but a better overall digital experience. So I think as millennials and high income earners who are really leading shopping online, that's just their preference. Now they're not as price sensitive. They're more about making their life easier. So I think it's been pretty important.
And I think that proves a really interesting challenge, Brett, doesn't it, for retailers or individual brands who don't have the scale or the infrastructure to deliver it properly, versus larger marketplaces or larger retailers who've invested a lot more in it. And there's ways to do it, but it is quite challenging for a small retailer or a small brand to deliver a Catch-like experience or an Amazon-like experience. But there's a lot of quick ways they can do it.
Yeah, that's why I think there needs to be you need to be thinking a little bit outside the square, or how can talk about services. And Jemima mentioned that as a great point. Like if you're not at that scale, what are the other things that you can do that really differentiate you in the online user experience?
And echoing that sentiment there, Brett, it's if you're an SME, you've got the ability to be more nimble and experiment with other avenues as opposed to, I suppose, enterprise style businesses.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And James, you actually provided the perfect segue into this because we are on a bit of a time crunch at the moment. So we are going to switch right over to the marketplaces. So actually, Brett, I think we should get you to head this one up a little bit. So please discuss everything that is here on the screen and we will have a great discussion about it.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing marketplaces, Magento front at Adobe. It's a very hot topic. Just getting a lot of businesses that are coming to us, whether they're startups or very established enterprise businesses looking to launch marketplaces. And you can see here there's just a lot of adoption of from buying from marketplaces from both consumers and also in organisations, and from a B2B sense as well. You know, I guess the attraction is coming from being able to offer a deeper set of products to the customer, trying to differentiate the experience, be able to offer, I guess, more flexible offers and potentially cheaper shipping. And I know it's been a really big focus for James and the team at Balance Internet. I'd be curious to ask you, James, what are you finding are the big drivers behind marketplace in the retail and even the B2B sector?
Yeah, thanks, Brett. Yeah, look, there's a lot of drivers. In the B2B sector, it's people wanting to go direct to consumer and trying to create a one-stop shop experience. For the retailers, it's about creating channels. So when we talk about at Balance, we just wrote a white paper. So if you go to our website at Balance Internet, there's actually a white paper on marketplaces there, and we broke it down with the team when we're writing it into participation in marketplaces or creation of marketplaces. And so I think you should break it up and go, okay, do I want to participate in a marketplace, as in get my products or services into other people's marketplaces, or do I want to build one out myself or as a business? And we're seeing both of those trends occur quite rapidly, and some doing both at the same time. So what I like about this graph that's quite interesting is the green versus the blue section. And if you look at what's dominating in marketplaces, which is dominating retailers, I can see a real difference in that. A lot of the blue sections, they seem to be brands. Jemima, this is probably your bread and butter, but they look like to me like there's more direct to retailer consumer, retail direct to consumer going on, where there's brands associated. Whereas at the marketplaces, electronics, house and garden products, yes, they're brands, but they're not. People aren't buying on brand as much. Is that a fair hypothesis, or do you have a different view?
I've got a couple of points of view here. Depending on the equity in your brand, and I'm not speaking specifically to the brands that I work on here, but depending on the equity of your brand can actually be a key driver into a marketplace as one type of consumer. On the flip side, consumers tend to shop in marketplaces because of the breadth of the product catalogue and therefore are not necessarily brand loyal. So there's I suppose two drivers behind that.
Yeah. I also think. Oh, go on, James.
There you go, mate. I'll talk in a sec.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think going back to some of the previous slides, we were talking about how you can differentiate yourself, kind of seeing that as an opportunity as well for a lot of brands where they're maybe not quite sure what their online strategy is, or maybe they think they have a limited offering for online, whereas a marketplace really opens up the opportunity to bring in obviously more sellers and create add more value to your customer, or maybe you've got a really captured audience in your product range, but really opening that up to other vendors creates significant opportunity for you to capture new customers.
Especially if you've got a strong hero brand, like if you've got a well-known strong brand and you can build a marketplace of allied products and services, going back to what we were talking about before, around it, you can create a one-stop shop and a great convenient experience for the customer as well. So I mean, we've built, Brett, with Magento, we've probably built about half a dozen marketplaces in the last year, all in different areas, and a lot of them are actually organizations who've got a great product that want to take that to market, but they want to expand that out and expand out the experience they have with the customer around that hero product, or that they've already got, that they're already fulfilling via online retail.
That's a really important point there, James, because that's the power of brand partnerships and even collaborations that we're seeing a real trend behind now as well. So collaborations with like two completely different brands that are not necessarily even playing in the same category are starting to build out those partnerships.
Yep, definitely seeing a lot of that as well.
So now we're going to move on to the types of marketplaces and where consumers have actually shopped over the last 12 months. So I'm going to throw this over to James as well. What have been your observations and changes and trends in marketplaces that you've noticed over the last 12 months, based on also this data and your personal experience?
So I've written down 4 things here. Firstly, there's been a growth in the long tail of marketplaces. So a lot of specific marketplaces have evolved that are around brands or around products or around services in particular verticals. So this is this idea that retailers say, you know what, we've got a great product or a great service, why don't we build a marketplace around that? So there's a lot of that going on. So that's the first trend. So in that long tail, the 1%ers and the 8%ers, there's a lot more in that tail going on. So there's a lot more marketplaces. And for everyone on the call and listening to this webinar, there's an opportunity for you to participate in them. Because if someone builds a marketplace, then there's an opportunity for you to get your products into that marketplace and collaborate and cooperate and do a JV with them. So that's the first one. The second one is that at the top end of town, around the eBay, Catch, Amazon, Kogan, they've just got a lot better at what they're doing. And we'll go back to that convenience conversation. The way that they've optimized and improved their convenience, there's a lot to learn there. So when you purchase from those organizations, and I'm sure a lot of people have, just look at all those small things they're doing around customer service, around fulfillment, around packaging. There's a lot to learn from there. And I think that's, people are feeling I've got more intent when they go to marketplaces to buy because I think they're going to get a deal. So they go there with intent to buy, and they feel that it's a safe haven, that it's a safe journey, and it's really convenient. So I think that's another trend. I also think that what's going on across the board is that there's people getting into marketplaces who you don't expect to build them. So we're building marketplaces for utilities, building marketplaces for insurance companies, building marketplaces for government. So and not necessarily selling things, but marketplaces of services and product, or the combination thereof. There's a lot of people who've got existing cohorts. So whether they've got members or databases of people that are doing something with them. So let's take a utility that's got a whole bunch of people that have signed up their utility. They're realizing, well, they can offer value add to that group, that cohort, by creating a marketplace. So there's a lot of activity building marketplaces in areas you'd least expect it. That's my 2 cents. Over to you guys. Brett, what do you think, mate?
I might echo some of your sentiments there, James. Yeah, just touching on what you were saying with products and services, my prediction would be the next marketplace trend is that morphing of product and concierge service. Again, going back to the installation example, and I do believe that we'll start to see a lot more partnerships and collaborations cross brands as well.
Yeah, I think you summed it up pretty well, James. But what's kind of impressed me, over the last 12 months, those guys at the top end, and Catch and Amazon and Kogan, you're just smashing it, right, with the way that they've set up their distribution and fulfillment. They're really reaping the benefits of that in the current climate. So I know a lot of our customers do very well on those platforms. So definitely something to look at if you're not on there already.
Absolutely. And as we can see in the data here, eBay and Catch have, been the leaders for some time in Australia, but Amazon is actually quickly catching up. So do you think that retailers should be worried about Amazon maybe taking over as the leading marketplace in Australia? And if so, why? And if not, again, why? So James, let's throw that one to you.
I don't know whether worried is the right answer or the right sentiment. I think it's more aware, like hyper aware, like really understanding what Amazon and others are doing. I don't think it's just Amazon. I mean, they've got to keep an eye on Kogan and Catch and Bunnings and Myer and whoever else is building marketplaces as well, because they're all coming at that space. And whilst there's some concern, there's also opportunity, depending on what sort of retailer you are, to participate in them. And as I said, when we wrote the white paper about marketplaces, we broke it into participation and creation. And so if you want to defend that, you could create a marketplace. But if you wanted to sort of become part of it, you can also participate, and you can participate in eBay, Catch, Amazon, etc. Particularly if they've got an open model where they're allowing drop shipping to occur.
Brilliant. And Brett and Jemima, do you have anything to add to that?
Just touch on. Well, you go, Brett.
I'll be quick. I was just going to say, look, from what I've seen on Amazon, I'd be getting in if you're not already. I think getting in early and being a first mover on that platform, just my my own experiences and what I've learned about the way Amazon's operating in the US and other markets. It's only going to ramp. They're going into their own categories. They're making products, their own white label products. I think it's going to be a major player. It already is, but it's growing quickly. I'd encourage most retailers to look at it pretty seriously.
And
I
Jemima?
think looking at Amazon in particular, it's understanding the role of that channel and how your brand, how that fits within your brand's ecosystem. So, is it purely from a transactional perspective, and therefore that may sit within the sales side of your organization, or is it from a marketing perspective, so playing on that channel in order to build customer reviews and therefore, assisting with your overall SEO. But then looking at those top three, eBay, Catch, and Amazon, they all have a very different model and value proposition. So yeah, it depends on how you want to interact with them.
Absolutely. Well, now we've come to the section.
One other final comment I wanted to make on this was just to pick up on one of Brett's points about internationalization. If any of the listeners on the call are looking to go international, there's a really amazing opportunity to use marketplaces to trial internationalization of your business. So you can actually, use the marketplaces and the pre-existing customer bases in global markets. And this is just the Australian market here, but if you look, this graph will be different in China or in the US or in Germany. And you can use marketplaces to enter markets and trial markets and test and learn.
Absolutely. A lot of untapped potential there. So now, we've actually come to the end of the data section of this webinar. We have about 10 minutes to spare, so we have a few questions that we can actually ask our lovely panelists. So if we could all turn our cameras back on. There we go. It's lovely to see everybody. So we do have a few questions. First one, let's throw it over to James. So based on the data of the marketplaces that we just saw before, what do you think has caused the biggest difference between 2019 and 2020 in terms of popularity of marketplaces? And what do you think some of the contributing factors for these changes might be?
There's a few that come to mind. I mean, one is that convenience thing. So that convenience has been improved by those players. Second, with marketplaces, there's been a real shift in more coming into market, people being more comfortable using marketplaces, so the customer sentiment towards them has changed. And I keep coming back to that idea of being forced, but a lot of consumers didn't have a choice in 2020. So it was like, well, I can't go to the Westfield shopping town and wander around and buy. So what's the online equivalent of that? Let's go to a marketplace and look around. So a lot of people were using marketplaces as a way of shopping and, tire kicking and looking at different products and buying gifts and different things like that. So I think there was that, and that was a forced shift. They didn't have a choice. So they're kind of three thoughts. I'm sure Jemima and Brett have got a few others.
Just sort of going on from what you're saying, James, it's not having that time or even ability to be able to go into a Westfield. So it's simulating that, I suppose, shopping centre experience, which essentially a marketplace does. And it's that one-stop shop to find a lot more of that product catalogue.
And Brett, do you have anything to add to that as well?
No, go next question if you like.
No worries. So we've seen plenty of retailers that have actually decided to create their own marketplace. So whether that be Kogan or Bunnings, do you think that other retailers online will start to dabble in the marketplace sort of game? And how long do you expect this trend to last? And if it's a bubble, when will it burst?
Yeah, I mean, my comments are probably not sure. I think it's going to be around for a while. I think there's a really great opportunity for a lot of categories to capitalize on marketplace. You might be looking around going, oh, there's already a lot of marketplaces, but there's plenty of categories where nothing's been done yet, which I think is really exciting. We talked about before about having a hero brand. And that's probably, you know, that's a great start if you have that. And then you can really, I guess, I think it'd be exciting to build, to see more industry categories or players in those spaces build marketplaces and create more of that concierge style service, you know, a community of content around a certain topic. I think that's going to continue to grow for some time, because I think, yeah, people really love that concept. So that's kind of my view on an opportunity, I think.
And does anyone else have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I just wanted to pick on something Jemima said earlier about services again. You know, like I think with marketplaces, there's an opportunity to extend retailers' offerings not just into other products that might be drop shipped from allied businesses or partner businesses, but services that sit around those products. And we're building a lot of service finders, either just services. So, for instance, if you have a look at skillfinder.com.au, that's about training and educational services. There's other retailers that we're working with directly who are blending the two together, and I think there's a massive opportunity there.
Yeah, because I think if you have all of that, you can really position yourself as the authority in your industry. So on that topic, and that's going to be the key moving forward. You know, so people want that one-stop shop.
Yeah, it's a good
And then
point.
when we localized,
end-to-end experience, which I think marketplaces are absolute fertile ground at the moment, and we'll see a lot of that cross-pollination happening.
And James, did you want to touch on the localization as well?
Just localization, yeah. Look, I mean, the services piece gives that local flavour. So you know, you can have this product, but then you can add local services that might sit around it. And if you can localize it to people who are spending a lot more time in their local communities and point them towards local services that complement those products, you're offering a really great value service that will create that loyalty and the repeat purchase as well. So I think there's a massive opportunity there.
Definitely. And we have time for about one more question. So just to sum up everything, we've seen the convenience of online shopping, you know, driving the shift to online. So Jemima, I'm going to throw this to you. How long do you expect this trend to last? And how can retailers make sure that they're capitalizing on the change in consumer behavior?
Look, again, it's going to come back to the experience. So offering that seamless, frictionless experience, cross-channel as well, as I mentioned at the start. When we think about online retail, it's not just a direct-to-consumer store, it's not just a marketplace, it's social commerce, it's digital commerce channels, it's voice commerce. So offering an experience wherever the consumer is and delivering on that experience of what you've portrayed your value exchange to be, I think we'll continue to see an evolution in that space. Absolutely.
And Brett and James, do you have anything to add to that? Or any other points you wanted to bring up regarding and the anticipation of the trends and how retailers can capitalize in this consumer change? Oh, James, you're on mute, sorry.
That's $1 right there. No, I actually don't have any comment. That's probably why I was on mute. I've kind of shared all mine earlier, so I might just throw to you, Brett.
Yeah, I think I've given my all as well for today. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to get in contact anytime.
Fantastic. Well, I wanted to give everybody, all of our panelists, all of our attendees, a massive thank you for taking the time out to be on today's webinar. If you have any questions for our panelists that we didn't get to ask or answer, feel free to reach out to them after the session. And thank you once again to James, Brett and Jemima for being here today. I hope everyone stays safe, has a fantastic and productive afternoon, and we'll see you at the next webinar.
Thank you.
Yes. Thanks, guys. Thanks
for having us.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye.